No. All right.
Hold on.
So, yes, we are online. Pawan? It's
Yeah,
Pavan or Pawan?
Pawan. It's Pawan.
All right. Like Pavan Podilha? It's the same
Yeah,
name?
exactly.
All right.
It's just the spelling is different a little bit. It's PAW. His is PAV. So
All right.
that's the difference. Yeah.
Cool. So, first of all, I'm Kelvin Galvão. I'm co-organizer of Flutterando here in Brazil. That is the biggest community in, I think, Latin America, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the biggest of the world. So, it's a cool thing that we've done. And to start, can you tell us a little about your childhood, when you did start in programming, when you did it, however.
Okay. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's really a pleasure. Finally, we could find a suitable time for this meeting. But about me, so I am Pawan Kumar. I'm from India. I live in Delhi NCR in India. And about my childhood, I am it's not one of the greatest story you will hear, but yeah, it can be kind of inspiring for people. I had no intention to come in the software development field or any engineering field. I was from I belong to a very poor family initially, and I lost my father when I was just 6 years old, and then we had to go through a lot of things, and then I don't know why even I went into computer science. I never wanted to do it, but because I was much more interested in biotech and doing something related to medicines and all that. I have even worked for 4 years in a chemist shop in a hospital. So that's how I started. But then when I went into college, then the first year was kind of really challenging for me, because I was from not from a computer background anyhow. Like even in school I didn't study computer science or any programming language. But I was like, every day when I used to go from metro from my place to college, I used to see people playing games, in the train, that they are playing Temple Run and all those games. I was like, it was kind of fascinating for me. I have been like a gadget lover since since I was a very small kid. So I wanted to know like how they create these games and applications. So I was like very much fond of making games. So I found out that there is something called Android development which you can do, and I started doing Android app development when I was in second year of my college. And then I somehow I made a game which was around my college. Like it had the surface as my college campus, and there were some degrees flying, and there was a aeroplane which used to catch those degrees, something like that. So it was kind of a fancy game, and it got good feedback from like college, and that's how I like started learning Android. And I used to work a little bit on web as well, but not that much. But Android was something which was mainstream for me. So after that, I got my first job as an Android developer when I graduated, and then I worked for Android, like on Android for some years, and then I guess I switched to many cross-platform frameworks as well, like Xamarin. I tried Xamarin before Flutter, and I think I started doing Flutter when it was in a very very early stage, and that time I was just experimenting. The idea was something very cool to me. Why? Because I used to think like, when something is solving a developer's pain, then it's gonna work, because there were a lot of pain involved in mobile app development, especially not web, but in terms of even creating an application and doing small changes, you have to like wait for so much time to see those changes. So that's how my interest it was so much interesting to me, like the Flutter SDK. And then after 1 year or so, I totally invested my time in that. And then in 2018, like in the last quarter of 2017, I started making tutorials on Flutter so that I can learn as well, and I can like talk about it to people so that they can also learn. And when we started, like when I started making tutorials, there were hardly, like you could count people who were working in Flutter, like not more than a dozen people were, like apart from Google, there were not more than dozen people who were doing Flutter. So that's how it started. And then I became a GD. Then after some time, my YouTube channel also became kind of good enough so that people could like know about me. And yeah, that's more or less about me. This is a long story, but yeah, it's in short, this is the, yeah, least I can talk about.
It's a really, really interesting history, and I'm sure that your history can inspire other peoples around the world. So India and Brazil, it's similar because we have some, I think, poor families here, but these guys can study, work harder, and reach out the world. So I think your
Exactly.
history can inspire Indian
I mean,
guys, Brazilian guys, African guys, like Pedro
absolutely.
Massango. There is a cool guy too. So
Even like a lot of people don't know that in 2014, I guess, I bought my first like Google Play Store account, like the developer account.
cool.
And that was also bought by my friend because I had no money to, like it was somewhere around $25, and I had no money to, like I was hardly saving any money to even cover my expenses for traveling to, like from home to college. So it was like bought by one of my friends. It was like right now he's one of my best friends. So that's something, yeah, that used to happen. But now things have changed drastically.
Thank you, thank you, your friend. Vivek. So he help you to reach the current.
Sure,
Sorry, my
yes.
English. I'm really nervous because I'm a big fan of your content in YouTube. So
Oh, thank you. I'm nervous too, but yeah, I'm like used to it now.
so you tell the Flutter is easy for Android developers. So Flutter, you can create a lot of things easier than native, than web. So can you tell us the best and to the worst thing about Flutter?
Sure. I mean, I have many. So I think the best thing about Flutter is the development experience. Everyone will say about it, but the thing is, what is different is, like mobile app development was never so easy. Even if you will, like it's a long journey to become a good native or whatever, and like mobile app developer. Even if you will talk about iOS app development, then also it's tough. And when you talk about Android app development, then also it's tough. Why I'm saying tough? Because if you will compare this to web development, where you can just write a single file of HTML, and you can see some things working. But that does not used to happen with normal mobile app development. I remember when I started Android app development, I used to work in Eclipse. Okay, and then we had to have some jar dependencies. We used to have those libraries, and was single hello world could take, like the whole installation and all that process could take more than one day. So that's how it started. So when I talk about Flutter now, so it's has like made everything very easy in terms of like getting started. The documentation is where like people start from, and it's pretty good as compared to early phase of Android or any other, like development kit. Even I can compare it with Django. If you know about Django had a really fantastic documentation when it, like I since when I know Django. So that's how the one thing which is really good about Flutter. Second thing is that the hot reload and all those functionality which you get, it makes you feel like now you can utilize your time. And that's why you will see that every Flutter developer is kind of very productive, and that's how they are like able to produce so many YouTube content. Even on CodePen I saw, like, people are like daily experimenting with something. There are a lot of people who try to play with Canvas. Otherwise, I remember the first time I worked with Canvas in Android, it was like, very, very difficult for me. Like, I could not do anything. And I was using, like, when I was making a very small game, then also I was using Surface View. I was very tough. I had to like take so many people's help, and yeah, it was tough. So the best thing about Flutter, in short, would be the development experience, the tooling itself, and the like flexibility it gives you, and the like it helps you, in doing so many things in a very less time. And after all of these, it can produce so many applications for you, for Android, for iOS, for a web, for desktop. So overall, it's a good package, I believe. That's what I can say. Okay, now coming to the like worst thing about Flutter, right? I think
Yeah.
there is nothing like worst, but I would say there is definitely some kind of improvements which can be there with Flutter. First of all, would be something related to platform specific things. Let's say if you have to do something with Android, then I think for Android or iOS app development, when you have to write native code, then I think isolates needs to be improved, because there are a lot of restrictions which you can do with isolates. So I definitely see that as some kind of like restrictions for people, like they cannot do a lot of things because of that. The second thing which I think should be improved is I think like someone, if someone wants to do something with let's say augmented reality or something related to IoT, then also I think Flutter restricts them somewhere, because of it's not really a good idea. Because on Android you have AR core, on iOS it's AR kit, so it's very difficult to manage a plugin which can, like, do both the things. And and it should be updated also with the time. So those are some of the things which I definitely believe that it needs a lot of improvements. And yeah, I think more or less, if you are just creating a Flutter application from scratch without using native like code that much, then it's gonna be a great experience. But once you have to like deal with so many things about like background processing and all those things, then it can take some time for you to, like, write some native code. If you're not familiar with writing native code, then it can be definitely a problem for you. So yeah, things are changing, but in last 2 years there are a lot of libraries, packages, plugins everywhere. You will find a lot of examples, and also I think it's becoming better and better every day. Yeah, I think I have taken it so far.
I think it can sound some different, but I think, in my opinion, the best part of Flutter is widget testing. So I love testing. So the widget testing allows me to test the UI without the price of integration tests. So it's the best thing for me. But
Yeah,
it's
that is something interesting, because I don't do a lot of widget testing, to be honest. I mostly write unit test, and very less widget test, and even lesser integration tests. So that's about me.
cool. So just to pick the next question. So if someone you start to learn Flutter today,
Yeah,
where do you recommend to start?
I think if they just want to start, I think they should go to documentation first. Flutter.dev is a really good place to start with. They should play with some what they call it, cookbooks, yeah, something like that, right? So they should play with them. It's kind of code labs or some sort of examples. And then maybe they can like move to some of the courses if they want. Otherwise they can like start building applications. It can be anything. It can be some sort of calculator, like small applications which comes to their mind. It doesn't matter if it's a repetitive thing, or if it is already there. It doesn't matter. You're just doing that for learning. And then obviously there are a lot of content on YouTube for free. And then yeah, obviously I'll definitely promote my channel as well here, because I have produced a lot of content on my channel for Flutter. So that's there. Then I know about a few of the courses which are being run by Flutter team as well, which are free, like in partnership with App Brewery. So that's you can see. And then I have like some paid courses also on school.mtechviral.com. So that's really I have made it for beginners. So yeah, I think there are sufficient content for beginners today, tomorrow, whenever they want.
And about the current state of Flutter in India, how is going the adaptation, and how is going the market with Flutter?
I think it's been increasing every day because I see a lot of Indian folks talking about Flutter, even commenting everywhere on Twitter, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. So from that perspective, also it's increasing every day. And I also receive so many emails and LinkedIn messages from like many service-based companies and product-based companies about Flutter, if I can give them training about Flutter, if I can help their team with Flutter. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of time that you will see a lot of like potential for Flutter developers. There will be a lot of jobs as well. And unfortunately, coronavirus came and things became a little bit different in that scenario. Otherwise, I think the growth has been so good, especially in India. And you must have seen one of the article which Flutter team published, which was saying that now Indians are more than Chinese in terms of like Flutter developers region wise. So yeah, that makes sense, right? I mean, there are a lot of Indians. Even if you will go to any YouTube channel, it doesn't matter who is running this, you'll definitely find so many Indians in the comments. So that's I think the least thing I can say about it.
Yes, we can find Brazilians, Indians, and Chinese guys in comments in everywhere. Everywhere, I think, is the most. I think the biggest community in the world is the Indian, China, and Brazil. So I think it's the
Yeah.
nationality that have
Yeah,
most
Chinese
developers.
people you won't find that much easily because of their own restrictions, like by their government. But Indians are everywhere. So I don't
Yes.
know about Brazil. You better know, but yeah, I know about India, so I can talk about Indian people and India.
And how was your experience becoming a GD?
I think it's been pretty good, to be honest. Like when I became a GD, I had no idea what GD is. That's my honest thing, because at that time there were like very less GDs. I know about what's his name, like Pascal or some name. Okay, he's also Flutter GD. So he became GD just before me, and I knew that there is a guy who became GD. So I searched about what is a GD, and I got a like general idea. And then after some time, I got message from the Flutter team, from Nile, that we have seen your work like on GitHub, on YouTube. Would you be interested in becoming a GD? So that's how it started. I was like, yeah, sure, I mean, why not? I can try it. And then I like, the good thing was like, no, I'm still the same person what I was before being a GD. But I think from people's perspective, from the audience perspective, they see you with a different eye when you become something. So that's where it also like involves a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, because when someone is like believing in you for a particular tag or whatever, then you have to like give something back to them as well. So I think it's been a very good journey for me. I have been going to like so many cities, so many countries as well, and talking about Flutter and my experience. So it's been great so far. And now because I'm like GD for 3 or 4 different things. So that again becomes a very difficult for me to create that much content for everything. But still I try to do my best, whatever I can create, and mostly for free. And apart from that, then also I try to create some premium content, so that like I can also gain something out of it. Because every time you cannot do it without like by sacrificing something. So if you are working somewhere, then also it's fine if it's that's the source of income for you. But if you're not working anywhere, then you have to like find some source of income. So yeah, that's one side of this story. But I think yeah, it's been a great experience, and people can better tell you because people know more than us.
Cool. So Flutter is coming from mobile to desktop to web. And what's your opinion about it? And which are you more hyped, desktop or web?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good when you know that you can write one single application which can work on multiple platforms. So obviously it's very fascinating. Everyone wants that. But when it comes to which one is my favorite, then obviously I would say web, because it's very easy to go to the web part and ask people to see something. You cannot ask people like, if it is desktop, then obviously they have to install another application, which is very much similar to how you deal with mobile apps. But on website, you don't have to like install any application. You can just go to a URL and you can like explore that. So web is definitely interesting to me, I think. But in current situation, it is still needs a lot of work from my perspective, from what I want to do. But yes, there are certain use cases which for which it can be really helpful even today. Let's say if you have to make some admin dashboard, if you want to make some light applications, if you want to make some PWA kind of stuff. So yes, there can be few scenarios where it can be helpful, but yeah, it needs more and more improvements in future. And to be honest, my personal opinion would be to make it really really good for mobile first, and then even thinking about web. Even if it is not coming for web and desktop, let's say in future, or if it was not coming, then also I would be fine if it is working really well for me for on both Android and iOS, because that's the main priority for me. That's why I chose Flutter. So I think those are always my priorities. But after that, obviously web comes, and then desktop or Fuchsia or whatever comes in the future.
Yes, I agree that web can open a lot of doors because web can reach a lot of people because you don't have to install an app. But I think the desktop, you have less competitors. So you have Electron, you have Delphi, but
Yeah.
Flutter have a greater dev experience. So you have less competitors. And the web, you have Angular, you have React, you have Vue.js,
Yeah.
and these guys is in the market a lot of time. It's mature, so I think the Flutter. To be honest, I don't think the Flutter is gonna compete with these guys in 2 years. But I think if you have a mature Flutter desktop, you can compete with Electron and another approach. But
I
I
think, yeah.
think the web is important because you
Yeah, like
can reach a
I
lot of
have
people.
I have another opinion about this. Like this is something which I will genuinely would want to people to know about, is that Flutter web or Flutter desktop or whatever comes in the future. It's not about competing with some other technology, and it's not about we know that Vue.js, React.js, or whatever library or framework is available for web. It's definitely going to be better than Flutter because that's their main job, right? That's why they were made. But how and why I see Flutter web important for me is, let's say I have a mobile app development experience, and then I want to create something on web. I want to go live at least for my application on web, but I don't have any experience of JavaScript or anything else, right? So in that scenario, Flutter web becomes something really really useful for me. And there will be like so many people like me, or like someone who does not know anything about web. So that's where I think it makes something interesting. And it's not about competition at all. What I see, I don't think Flutter will ever be able to replace JavaScript or all those technology. It's just a like maybe it can happen, but I don't think it will happen, because you never know about technology. But at the same time, you know that there is something which is totally totally made in that direction only. Like React is made in for web only, right? So there is something called React Native and other things, but React is totally focused on web. Similarly, Flutter's main goal was always mobile first. So web is a special like extension for it, like a kind of additional thing which you are getting. So it's more or like I think a kind of extra which you can get with Flutter if you don't have any web experience. So that's where I think it's very very important. And yeah, if you will see in terms of competition, then it's gonna be very bad because it's very tough.
You have a good point, and I'm one of those guys that don't have any background with web. To be honest, I don't have any background before Flutter because I'm only 20 years old and I'm start with Flutter. So my background is Flutter, my future is Flutter. So I don't know.
Yeah, when I was
So
20, I was only know about like Android, little bit about Android, nothing else.
yes. So why did you create VeloxityX and what was your inspiration?
I think why I created it because there were like when I was working on a Flutter project, it was kind of a good Flutter project, like a big one, not a very small one. And there was like a lot of repetition which I was doing. Like for every text, I was writing text styles, and I was like giving font sizes and all those things. Even I could like extract things, but still I wanted to have something good. And then I started making MTechViral.com, right? Okay, I started working on Vue.js, and I started using something called Tailwind CSS, which is a CSS framework. Okay, and what happened was like I really liked the idea if I could do something like that in Flutter, but I didn't know where to start. And someday when I was like in I think like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I was playing with Flutter, and it just came to my mind, let's try something same similar to Tailwind. And then I also played a little bit with Swift UI. So I liked the idea from both those texts, and I tried to replicate them in Flutter, and the result was kind of interesting. But then I reached to some of the guys like Remy, like who made provider package, and I asked his opinion on it, like how you see it. And he gave me a few suggestions. So what I did, I again worked on it, and I like did some changes which Remy suggested. Then there were a couple of guys I posted on Twitter, and they also replied like this should be something like this. And I again like modified it, and then I came to a conclusion that yeah, now this is looking good, this is something which makes sense. And then I started using in my project first. So for my production application, which is like related to blockchain, and there is another application which I was doing, that was e-commerce based application. I started using Velocity X in them, and I tried to find out that how much time it is saving for me. And it was like pretty good like amount of time it was saving for me, especially in terms of UI and UX. So that's when I thought like I can now publish it as a library or as a framework itself, so that it can help people. But definitely I knew that there will not be so many people who will love it. Like even if you will talk about Tailwind CSS, there are like a lot of people who likes it the way it works, but there will a lot of people who criticize it for the way it works. So that was something always in my mind, that same thing can come for Velocity X as well. But I think yeah, it's like my opinion that if someone likes it, then he can use it. If someone does not like it, then also it's fine. I mean, it's nothing which I would like everyone to use. It's definitely for faster development of yours. So if you want this way, then fine. If you are happy with some other way, then also it's fine. That's my opinion.
So the next question, it's about it. So when I saw your tweet about VeloxityX, I share with everyone. And when I come to read the comments, some big names from community reacted negatively with VeloxityX. And did it affect you in any way, or you just saw it and just, all right, I'm gonna improve it? And
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
think I don't think like many people gave any negative comment as such, but yeah, I would say that maybe there were some comments which were saying that why we need this. This is kind of an anti-pattern, right? Like for Flutter developers. And then I talked to few guys again. Like I talked about Remy, that I interacted with him before like publishing it to public, and I, because he is working with like so many packages, and he had that experience for what can work. And even recently I saw his tweet, he was also trying to do something like that, right? But that's a different thing. He's playing, he's experimenting. So then also when I saw those kind of feedbacks, or something like it's an anti pattern, then also I thought about it, like what I can do to improve it. But there was like nothing in my mind that I know I just want to remove it from my life. Why? Because I am using it and I'm happy with this, right? It was never my intention to make it live, first of all, but once I found it useful, then only I made it live. And now, because since I have been like in last 2 weeks I have been like pushing some tutorials on it, and I am working on the documentation from scratch again, in a like better way. So I have seen a lot of community guys engaging with the package itself, and I have seen many people asking me for documentation, like if we can get more documentation and all. So I think it's been going good, and I have been regularly updating it as well. So yeah, there will always be some feedbacks about some, like there will always be some pros and cons for everything. So I personally think it's not an anti pattern for me. It's something which I am experimenting with. Maybe when initially, if you remember, what was the name of the package? I forgot, but it was used for before provider. There was something called what was that for state
Open
management?
model.
Scope model, right? So when it came, it also got kind of criticism for the way it used to work. So but then provider came, so there is always some kind of improvements which happens on the base of something. So that's how I see things, and that's how I take it. And you never know, like no one is aware that what will work for most of the audience. So everyone is trying to do their best, and if something will work, then it's fine. If something will not work, we will work on something else. So that's how it's been going. And so far it's going good. I think Velocity X has I have recently like talked to many people, and they have all given me positive feedbacks about it.
Totally agree with you. And Velocity X can save us a lot of time. And if I can, I will translate the documentation to Portuguese. So
It takes a lot
I
of
I think
I
it
know
can
that.
help the Brazilian guys, because if you come from web, I think Velocity X can help you a lot if you don't have any experience with that, with stylization of widgets. So I'm gonna translate it to Portuguese so Brazilian guys can use it.
I would love that.
So all right, the next days you can see some pull requests with my name.
Sure.
So coming back to Flutter, so did you expect the fast growth that Flutter has been in the world? So 1 year ago, it just well, it's cool, but it's not mature. Nobody's is using it. So today on GitHub Oktoberfest, we are I think we are in the third position of top open source contributions. Dart is
Yeah.
the language that most growth. So did you expect it?
I think absolutely yes, because there are like many reasons for that. Before Flutter, my best experiment was with Kotlin. So when Kotlin was not even announced as like first class language for Android, I was making tutorials on Kotlin. If you'll go to my channel, then you will find some tutorials on Kotlin. And I had like this faith in myself that this is something which is going to be something big in future. and this is going to replace Java, or because I never loved Java, to be honest. I was like good with C sharp. C sharp was the language which I used to love more than Java. That's why I in fact chose Xamarin first. Like before, when Flutter was not there, Xamarin was still there, and I played with Xamarin for almost 1 year. So because of C sharp. So the same thing happened with Kotlin, and what used to happen, like I didn't used to get any views on my channel for Kotlin, and I was kind of frustrated that okay, it's just 9 views in 3 months. Is That's just so less. And there is like, when you see that it's not growing, then there is no need of making it, because if someone is not watching it, then what's the benefit of doing it? So that's when I stopped like making videos on Kotlin. And once Google announced in one of the IO that Kotlin is now the first class language, in one day I got like 9,000 views on one of my video, and I was like, what the hell I did? I mean, I could have made more videos and it could become something good. So it was like, some kind of instinct in my mind that this will work. So similarly, when I started Flutter, there was some instinct in my mind that this is something big. This is going to be big, maybe today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I don't know when, but yeah, it will become something. And then if you will see my tutorials, like if you'll go and watch them, then I used to say there's something new, cool, and crazy which can change future. So you will see me saying that. And that's how I used to believe in that. And then when I saw that no one is making tutorials, like there were like very few tutorials on YouTube, then I started making tutorials. I was like, I will like spread it. I will make hundreds of tutorials so that when people will search about it, they will find tutorials. I started making open source project. So if you will see my early tutorials, it was like WhatsApp clone, Instagram clone, Twitter clone. So I wanted people to come and see the beauty of Flutter, like how's the experience. So that's how it started. And then why I would say that I expected it, because I myself went to like 50 100 places myself talking about it. And I always knew that if I will be consistent, if people around the community will be consistent, and the way community of Flutter has been growing, I think that's definitely something which every other community will see. And that's the reason of the growth of Flutter, to be honest. So yeah, that's more or less. I talk too much, so just you have to like
No
bear with
problem.
me.
You talked about your open source projects, and one of your projects is the DevFest
Yeah.
application. And yesterday I was watching a talk about comparison between React Native and Flutter, and
Hmm.
it's on, I think, in an event of React here in Brazil. And the application that the guy used to make the comparison is your
Yeah.
open source project. So I saw and well, I I know this application. I watched the video about this application, and this guy's the guy who talked about it uh, make a clone with React Native and comparing, and I think was a comparison in even React Native, and well, I saw it and I think it's a Flutter talk, because the talk is, well, Flutter is better in it, Flutter is better in it, but Flutter is better in it. It's React Native can no, Flutter is better in it. So your application just won the fight. It's not a fight, but won the comparison. So thank
I
you for
think
it.
that application, when I just made it for templating, right? It's just a template which anyone can use. And I think I was like sitting with one of my colleague in my office, and we were discussing, let's make it. And in 1 or 2 days we just made the template, and that was all my design. Like I designed it all over, like how it should be. And then we started making it in a product itself, right? And if you will see the last push which I did for that template was like there have been a lot of improvements over that, and I haven't pushed that code till now, because we had to stop at some places. We even integrated Firebase and all those things in that application, but then we couldn't complete it on time, and we got busy, and that colleague of mine, he left the job, he went somewhere else. So that's where it stopped. Otherwise, I was also making tutorials on that series, because I thought like it can go good. But there is one thing which, because of this platform, I would definitely want people to know, is that if you find something interesting, then you should like focus more on that, rather than running behind fancy UIs and all. Because as a creator, I will create that what people are going to watch. So even if you see, if the level of content is different, or the content is much more advanced, then you don't hard like see so many people watching it, or giving their best feedbacks about those things. So that's where I think community lacks somewhere. I mean, if you will make a fancy UI, then you will see a lot of people are coming and giving you thousands of likes. And when you make something interesting and something with lot of your hard work, then it does not get that much feedback in that scenario. So that's where I stopped working on that application, because it was not at that time, at least it was not doing wonders. But today when I go back to those videos, I think like people have started watching that after some time, and it has now good numbers. And I'm still thinking about whenever I will get time, then I'll kind of migrate that application to something better. And because there is a lot of learning involved in that. So only one application can be like can do wonders in terms of understanding many different concepts. So I have been like thinking about creating one application which can cover all these things, but that definitely needs a lot of time, lot of like good response from people as well. Because if anyone is not going to watch, then it's just waste of time. So yeah, that's that's more or less about that.
So the last question is a question that you cannot miss it in a Flutter dev interview. So what approach of state management do you prefer?
Okay, so yeah, I'll be very honest. I mostly use Flutterblock for my projects, which is packaged by Felix. And I have been like talking to him many of the time. I even asked so many doubts to him, why this not, and why this is not working. So that's my first when I was working on a project, that's the first thing which I use. But then at the same time, I use provider as well for there is some boilerplate which you have to do when you are using Flutterblock. Although there are like snippet generators which can generate those boilerplate for you, but then also sometimes it does not make sense to use anything. So I think with Flutterblock, I have used provider as well at many places. And apart from these two, I use stateful builder. So that works pretty good for me for like small screens. When you have to just do one change, it doesn't make sense to do anything else. I haven't like I have been wanting to try Mobex, because it's been in my mind. And even Pawan, another Pawan, has created that repo. So he has asked me a couple of times to look into it and make tutorials out of it, but I never got time to actually try it. But I definitely want to try it. Then I was playing with something called Fish Redux, if you know about it. It's something which Alibaba created, right? But I could understand, but the thing was like it is very very complex for like to let others understand, like what I'm trying to explain. So it's very complex in that scenario. So that's why I just like I never thought about it again. So Flutterblock is definitely I recommend. And provider, again, if you have like very not a very big application. But yeah, I think there will always be debate about state management in Flutter. But I would definitely want Flutter team to come up with something which people can like totally say, for like Vue.js, there is Vuex. That's it. For React, it's been Redux. That's it. And now there's something called Recoil.js, which is now getting some hype about it. But then I think for us, I can play with so many things, but there are not so many people who can play with so many things. So they would definitely want a single source of truth that, yeah, this is something which I would use. So it's still in a very debatable zone. Everyone has different opinions, but I think you can use anything which works for you. If block works for you, go ahead. If Mobex works for you, go ahead. If provider works for you, go ahead. It is not like you are not competing with anyone else but yourself, with your code. Like if you can understand it, if your team can understand it, then it's all good. It's if it is performing enough, you don't have to bother about anything. So yes, I have been like in different projects, I have been using different state management approach. But yeah, I think everything works.
I tried Fish Redux too. I translated the documentation of PubDev to
Yeah.
Portuguese, but I didn't learn it. It's very difficult. I,
Yes.
I, I don't know. I didn't know the normal Redux. Fish Redux, I don't know. It's really difficult.
Redux is
I
very good, like in terms of even if you're using Flutter block, then you will see both things. This is a combination of block plus Redux. So once
Yes.
block and Redux combines, it becomes Flutter block. To be honest, like that's how I see it, because the like event state and all those things are kind of taken from Redux itself, right? And the way you are like syncing those events and streaming those states, that's totally block. So I'm even like confused why Felix named it Flutter block. That because that becomes so much confusing. But yeah, I mean that's been it. So we cannot change it now.
Here in Brazil, state management last year was a big fight, especially in block, because here in Brazil we have a lot of ways to do block. I think in the world you have a lot of ways to do block. You have Fried OS, you have Flutter block, you have pure block, you have React Dart to do some things with block, and people will just, oh, my way is the right way to do block. I'm gonna write an article and evangelize it. But in the comment, have a guy, no, my way is the best way. And it's a fight in community. A lot of communities in Brazil, it's have a distance between because one thought they have the right way to the block, and the another community have your own way to do block. But now we have one word, Mobex. Mobex brings the peace to Brazil. Mobex have a good documentation, have a one way to do things, and is the word. Mobex bring the peace to Brazil. But I agree, Flutterblock, it's a good package. I use in the company that I work, and I think the boilerplate is reasonable because we have a you have a pattern, you have a way to do it, you have a documentation, so we don't have you don't have to teach people. Well, you do it, but you can do it, but it's the way you can learn about this in this article, but you have the YouTube telling different thing about the article. But Flutterblock, you have a documentation, one way to do it. You have a pattern, and it helps a lot of projects. Big projects help us a lot. So I love Flutterblock. I love Mobex, and I think the provider it's a good approach for. I think it's less boilerplate. It is to learn and have documentation. So the fight it's unnecessary because you
Absolutely.
have to you have to work which you're comfortable. So if you if
You know,
you if you are
yeah.
good with Flutterblock, it's all right. If you are good with Mobex, it's all right. Just just do what your user need. So don't care if you use A or B, just brings the best experience for your user.
Yeah, and why like suggest people Flutter block is because it's a complete package itself. You can do, like, you can write good tests for blocks as well. For everything, there's everything there, because even I think Felix has invested so much time in the documentation and curating all those examples, because it takes a lot of time. I am seeing, like, for Velocity X, it is taking me a lot of time to write documentation right now. So it takes a lot of effort from the person who creates it. And I think the second thing is that why I don't recommend block is there is one reason for that, and that is, like, when people don't know how to use it properly, then it can become very very dangerous for your application in terms of memory leaks, in terms of performance. Because I saw a guy, like, using stream builder inside stream builder inside stream builder and inside stream builder, and he didn't know, like, what the heck is going on. And I don't know how things were working fine for him. Like, the application was working fine, but he cannot, like, test it, or he cannot, like, go inside and see what's exactly happening. So that's where I think, if you don't know how things are working, then you should either learn it properly first, and then you should, like, use it, or use some other alternative option. Maybe it can be Mobex, it can be provider. And provider is something which I really like in terms of data sharing, like how inherited widget works. Like, if I have to do some changes based on some situation, then I'll do it. But if you want more kind of kind of a way of how your application should be structured, then also I think Flutter blocks plays a very crucial role there. Because it kind of, when I used to make Django projects, they kind of force you to use MVC. You don't have any other choice. So that's when you have no other reason but to write better code. So that's also something which Flutter block offers. That's really good. And if nothing is working for you, use stateful widgets, but use it properly. So then you can use stateful builder, which you can, like, wrap it with single widget, and you can, like, set state using that particular widget only, and it will just change that widget. So you will be happy, I am happy. And if someone is not happy, then use value notifier and all those things. There are a lot of options.
So to all the devs who are watching this video, just solve the problem. Just solve the
Yes.
problem.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pavan, to accept our invitation to this interview. I think a lot of people in Brazil likes your content, likes your person, likes your tweets. That is good too. So thanks for all. Thanks for your time. I think it's late in India, so you can
Not
rest.
late. We have been, like, talking in community around 1 a.m. in the night as well. So yeah, it's all good. We are used to it now. We are developers. We have this habit
Cool.
now.
I
But
hope
yeah,
the guys can enjoy this video. So
yeah, it was fun to be here, to be honest. Like, I always love to talk to people. And to be honest, I get so many invitations that I don't want to say no to anyone. But I have, like, my own schedule, that I have to, like, do so many things. I have to work for YouTube, I have to do my work. And there are a lot of ideas always in my mind, that okay, today I'll do a video on Deno, I'll do something else. So it's always experimentation. And then this coronavirus, I mean, I just want it to get over as soon as possible. And I wish everyone to stay safe, stay home. And thank you so much again for joining and watching us here talking for, like, it's been 1 hour or something, right? It's
yeah.
been a long time. People don't usually watch these big videos because they feel sleepy.
Yes, but I think the guys is gonna like this video. I think maybe guys don't watch it, but if you're gonna watch, you're gonna like it. So thanks for
Okay.
guys who are watching this part of video. Even if you just skip it to the end, thank you for your time, and thank you, Pavan, for your time again. And
Thank you.
have a nice night. Goodbye, and
Goodbye. Good night. Take care.
and keep your work in community. It's a great work.
For sure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna just stop recording.